王毅国务委员兼外长。
Secretary。
王毅，你说两句吧。
我先翻译一下。
还要翻吗？翻吧你。
那我先翻一下。
It's a test for the interpreter.
We're going to give the translator a raise.
Yeah.
Secretary Blinken and Mr. Sullivan, the State Councilor and the Foreign Minister Wang Yi and I have come to encourage the United States to have this strategic dialogue with the United States. We hope that this dialogue will be a sincere and candid one. Both China and the United States are major countries in the world, and together we shoulder important responsibilities to the peace, stability, and development of the world and the region. In China, we have just concluded the Lianghui, or the two sessions of the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference. During the sessions, we adopted the outline for the 14th Five-Year Economic and Social Development Plan and the long-range objectives through the year 2035. For China, we are now in a historic year where we will move from finishing the first centenary goal to the second centenary goal. And by the year 2035, China will surely achieve basic modernization. And by the year 2050, China will achieve full modernization. China has made decisive achievements and important strategic gains in fighting COVID-19, and we have achieved a full victory in ending absolute poverty in China. China's per capita GDP is only 1/6 of that of the United States, but we have managed to end absolute poverty for all people in China. And we hope that other countries, especially the advanced countries, will make similar efforts in this regard. And China has also made historic achievement in building the country into a moderately prosperous one in all respects. The Chinese people are closely rallying around the Communist Party of China. Our values are the same as the common values of humanity. Those are peace, development, fairness, justice, freedom, and democracy. What China and the international community follow or uphold is the United Nations-centered international system and the international order underpinned by international law, not what is advocated by a small number of countries of the so-called rules-based international order. And the United States has its styled United States-style democracy, and China has the Chinese-styled democracy. It is not just up to the American people, but also the people of the world to evaluate how the United States has done in advancing its own democracy. In China's case, after decades of reform and opening up, we have come a long way in various fields. In particular, we have made tireless efforts to contribute to the peace and the development of the world and to upholding the purposes and principles of the UN Charter. The wars in this world are launched by some other countries, which have resulted in massive casualties. But for China, what we have asked for other countries is to follow a path of peaceful development. And this is the purpose of our foreign policy. We do not believe in invading through the use of force or to topple other regimes through various means or to massacre the people of other countries, because all of those would only cause turmoil and instability in this world. And at the end of the day, all of those would not serve the United States well. So we believe that it is important for the United States to change its own image and to stop advancing its own democracy in the rest of the world. Many people within the United States actually have little confidence in the democracy of the United States, and they have various views regarding the government of the United States. In China, according to opinion polls, the leaders of China have the wide support of the Chinese people. So, no attempt to...
美国的民调
The opinion polls conducted in the United States show that the leaders of China have the support of the Chinese people. No attempt to smear China's social system would get anywhere. Facts have shown that such practices would only lead the Chinese people to rally more closely around the Communist Party of China and work steadily towards the goals that we have set for ourselves. In 1952, China adopted its first 5-year development plan, and now we are into the first year of the 14th 5-year development plan. We will continue along this path step by step. China's development is not just about delivering benefits for the people of China, but also about contributing to the development of the world in the 21st century. China and the United States are both major countries and both shoulder important responsibilities. We must both contribute to the peace, stability, and the development of the world. In areas such as COVID-19, restoring economic activities in the world, and responding to climate change, there are many things that we can do together and where our interests converge. So what we need to do is to abandon the Cold War mentality and the zero-sum game approach. We must change the way we think and make sure that in this century, the 21st century, countries, big or small, particularly the big countries, should come united together to contribute to the future of humanity and build a community with a shared future for humankind. It's also important for all of us to come together to build a new type of international relations featuring fairness, justice, and mutual respect. And on some regional issues, I think the problem is that the United States has exercised long-arm jurisdiction and suppression and overstretched the national security through the use of force or financial hegemony. And this has created obstacles for normal trade activities, and the United States has also been persuading some countries to launch attacks on China. And as for China, we believe and we have handled import and export related issues according to scientific and technological standards. Secretary Blinken, you said you just came back from Japan and the ROK. Those two countries are China's second and third largest trading partners. ASEAN has now become China's largest trading partner, overtaking the European Union and the United States. So we do hope that the United States will develop sound relations with all countries in the Asia-Pacific. We should have many mutual friends. This is the right way forward in the 21st century. On the eve of the Chinese Lunar New Year, President Xi Jinping and President Joe Biden had a phone conversation. The two presidents agreed to step up communication, manage differences, and expand cooperation between our two countries. We are having this dialogue today to follow up on the common understandings of the two presidents reached during their phone conversation, and having this dialogue is, in fact, a decision made by the two presidents. So for the people of the two countries and the world, they're hoping to see practical outcomes coming out of our dialogue. And for Xinjiang, Tibet, and Taiwan, they are inalienable part of China's territory. China is firmly opposed to U.S. interference in China's internal affairs. We have expressed our staunch opposition to such interference, and we will take firm actions in response. On human rights, we hope that the United States will do better on human rights. China has made steady progress in human rights, and the fact is that there are many problems within the United States regarding human rights, which is admitted by the U.S. itself as well. The United States has also said that countries can't rely on force in today's world to resolve the challenges we face. And it is a failure to use various means to topple the so-called authoritarian states. And the challenges facing the United States in human rights are deep-seated. They did not just emerge over the past 4 years, such as Black Lives Matter. It did not come up only recently. So we do hope that for our two countries, it's important that we manage our respective affairs well, instead of deflecting the blame on somebody else in this world. And for China, we will manage our own affairs well, and we hope to deliver a better life for our 1.4 billion Chinese people. This is the goal of China's diplomacy. And also, we will make our contribution to the peace and stability of the world. Since breaking the ice between our two countries in our engagement several decades ago, China and the United States have achieved a lot together. This is the result of the concerted efforts of the people with vision of both countries, and this has been hard-won achievements. Although so much has changed in this world, it is important that our two countries think about how we can work together and expand our cooperation under the new circumstances. If there is competition between our two countries, I think the competition focuses on the economic aspect. And in this area, as I have said just now, for frictions in our economic engagement, it is important to respond to them in a rational way and seek win-win results. And China-U.S. trade has already achieved a lot, and we should do even better. The overwhelming majority of American businesses in China have said that China's business environment is good, and nobody has forced them to stay in China. They see a profit coming from their presence in China, and they see immense opportunities in China. That's why they are here in China. And I believe that for our two countries, under the new circumstances, we need to enhance communication, properly manage our differences, and expand our cooperation, instead of engaging in confrontation. Well, between our two countries, we've had confrontation in the past, and the result did not serve the United States well. What did the United States gain from that confrontation? I didn't see any. And the only result was damages done to the United States. And China will pull through and has pulled through such confrontation. So the way we see the relationship with the United States is, as President Xi Jinping has said, that is, we hope to see no confrontation, no conflict, mutual respect, and win-win cooperation with the United States. And actually, during the phone call between the presidents, President Biden himself also talked about the importance of having no conflict or confrontation between our two countries. So at our level, I think it's vital that we do everything we can to fully and faithfully follow up and implement the understandings reached between our two presidents and bring back China-U.S. relationship to the track of sound and steady growth.
关于所谓这个网络袭击问题，我想网络袭击的能力使用方面，美国都是冠军。
On cyber attacks, let me say that whether it's the ability to launch cyber attacks or the technologies that could be deployed, the United States is the champion in this regard.
倒打一把是不行的。
Well, you can't blame this problem on somebody else.
美国不代表国际舆论，
The United States itself does not represent international public opinion,
西方也不代表国际舆论。
and neither does the Western world.
无论是从人数上来讲，还是从世界潮流来讲，西方的舆论不能被认为是国际舆论。
Whether judged by population scale or the trend of the world, the Western world does not represent the global public opinion.
所以，我们希望美国在讲什么普世价值啊，什么国际舆论的时候啊，想想自己啊心里是不是踏实？因为你们不能够代表，你们只能代表美国政府。
So we hope that when talking about universal values or international public opinion on the part of the United States, we hope the U.S. side will think about whether it feels reassured saying those things, because the U.S. does not represent the world, it only represents the government of the United States.
我认为世界上绝大部分国家不承认美国所说的普遍价值，不承认美国的言论就是国际舆论，不承认少数人制定的规则就是所谓以规则为基础的国际秩序。
I don't think the overwhelming majority of countries in the world would recognize that the universal values advocated by the United States or that the opinion of the United States could represent international public opinion. And those countries would not recognize that the rules made by a small number of people would serve as the basis for the international order.
因为两位的开场白与众不同，所以我的开场白恐怕跟一般的开场白也稍稍不同。
Oh, because Mr. Secretary and NSA Sullivan, you have delivered some quite different opening remarks. Mine would be slightly different as well.
Okay. Yeah. 杨主任刚才讲比较长，我会讲的短一点。
Well, I will stay quite brief compared with Director Yang.
两位先生，你们跟中国也打过多年的交道，也算是我们的朋友了。那么很高兴今天能够见面。中方是应美方的邀请而来。安卡德基这个地方，就像刚才沙利文所讲的，处在中美航线的中间的位置，所以可以说这个地方既是中美交往的一个加油站，也是我们两国相向而行的一个交汇点。过去几年，由于中国的正当的权益受到了无理的打压，中美关系遭遇到了前所未有的严重的困难。这种局面损害了两国人民的利益，也损害了世界的稳定和发展，不应当再继续下去了。中方过去、今后、将来都绝不会接受美国方面的无端的指责。同时，我们要求美方要放弃动辄干涉中国内政的这种霸权的行径。这个老毛病应该改一改了。我尤其要在这里指出的是，就在3月17号，美方竟然在涉及到香港问题上再次升级对中国的所谓的制裁。这种粗暴干涉中国内政的 行径，激起了中国人民的强烈的愤慨，我们当然坚决的予以反对。安卡提这个地方虽然是中美的中间点，但毕竟是美国，我们是应美国的邀请到这里来了。但是竟然在我们出发的前一天，美国发起新的对华制裁，我认为这不是正常的待客之道。但如果美方试图以此举来所谓增强你们对华的优势的话，我想恐怕也是打错了算盘，只能证明内心的虚弱和无力，丝毫不会影响中国的正当的立场，也不会动摇中国人民的意志。我最后要说的是，习近平主席和拜登总统在中国春节除夕的通话非常重要，他们二达成的共识，为中美关系重回正轨指明了方向。国际社会高度关注今明两天我们在这里的对话，高度关注双方能否各自显示出诚意和善意，能否从这里向世界发出积极和正面的信号。我们对此拭目以待。如果美方愿意的话，我们愿意共同把这份责任承担起来，把我们应该做的工作做好。我就说这些，谢谢。
Secretary Blinken, NSA Sullivan, you have been involved in the relationship with China for many years, so you're also true friends for the Chinese people. And I would say that I am pleased to meet you today. And China, the Chinese delegation, is here at the invitation of the United States. And as NSA Sullivan said, Anchorage is the midpoint of the air route connecting our two countries. And it is fair to say that this place is a refilling station for China-U.S. exchanges, and also a place that China and the United States can meet each other halfway. And China certainly in the past has not, and in the future will not, accept the unwarranted accusations from the U.S. side. In the past several years, China's legitimate rights and interests have come under outright suppression, plunging the China-U.S. relationship into a period of unprecedented difficulty. This has damaged the interests of our two peoples and taken its toll on world stability and development. And this situation must no longer continue. And China urges the U.S. side to fully abandon the hegemonic practice of willfully interfering in China's internal affairs. This has been a long-standing issue, and it should be changed. It is time for it to change. And in particular, on the 17th of March, the United States escalated its so-called sanctions on China regarding Hong Kong. And the Chinese people are outraged by this gross interference in China's internal affairs, and the Chinese side is firmly opposed to it. Anchorage is a midpoint between China and the United States, but after all, it's still the United States territory. And I have said that the Chinese delegation has come here at the invitation of the United States. However, just on the day before our departure, the United States passed these new sanctions. This is not supposed to be the way one should welcome his guests. And we wonder if this is a decision made by the United States to try to gain some advantage in dealing with China. But certainly this is miscalculated and only reflects the vulnerability and weakness inside the United States. And this will not shake China's position or resolve on those issues. And let me also say that the phone conversation that President Xi Jinping and President Biden had on the eve of the Chinese New Year is a very important one. And during this phone conversation, they reached some common understandings that have pointed the way forward for us to bring back the China-U.S. relationship onto the right track. And the international community is following very closely our dialogue for today and tomorrow. They are watching whether our two sides will each demonstrate goodwill and sincerity, and they are watching whether this dialogue will send out a positive signal to the world. So we will be watching what will happen today and tomorrow, and if the United States is willing, I think our two sides should step up to this responsibility and deliver on this task that we are given. I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Given, hold on 1 second, please. Hold on 1 second. Mr. Director, State Councilor, given your extended remarks, permit me please to add just a few of my own before we get down to work, and I know Mr. Sullivan may have a few things to say as well. I have to tell you, in my short time as Secretary of State, I've spoken to, I think, nearly 100 counterparts from around the world, and I just made my first trip, as I noted, to Japan and South Korea. I have to tell you, what I'm hearing is very different from what you described. I'm hearing deep satisfaction that the United States is back, that we're re-engaged with our allies and partners. I'm also hearing deep concern about some of the actions your government is taking, and we'll have an opportunity to discuss those when we get down to work. A hallmark of our leadership, of our engagement in the world, is our alliances and our partnerships that have been built on a totally voluntary basis. And it is something that President Biden is committed to reinvigorating and strengthening. And there's one more hallmark of our leadership here at home, and that's a constant quest to, as we say, form a more perfect union. And that quest, by definition, acknowledges our imperfections, acknowledges that we're not perfect, we make mistakes, we have reversals, we take steps back. But what we've done throughout our history is to confront those challenges openly, publicly, transparently, not trying to ignore them, not trying to pretend they don't exist, not trying to sweep them under a rug. And sometimes it's painful, sometimes it's ugly, but each and every time we've come out stronger, better, more united as a country. I recall well when President Biden was vice president and we were visiting China, and this was in the wake of the financial crisis. There was much discussion then, including with then Vice President Xi Jinping. And Vice President Biden at the time said, it's never a good bet to bet against America. And that remains true today.
感谢。那么，因为杨主任和王国伟呢都讲了很长的这个讲话，所以我这里呢也想补充几句。我相信Sullivan 国安助理呢也会接着讲几句话。那么尽管呢我在任上的时间并不长，但是呢我在世界范围内跟超过100个这个国家相关的这人员呢通过话。那么您也知道，我第一次的出访呢是日本和韩国，所以呢，我从他们那儿听到的跟您讲的是大不相同的，因为他们呢都表示了非常的不满，同时呢非常高兴美国重新回来了，而对于中国还在很多方面呢都表示了深刻的关切。那么这个当然就是我们接下来要讨论的一些内容。那么其实在世界上美国所体现的这么一种领导力， 可以说也就是从这个世界范围内，我们的盟邦也好，或者呢是朋友也好，在跟我们一道呢都是出于自愿的。就好像拜登总统曾经强调过的，其实美国有一个特质，那么其中呢就是我们承认，也是我们常说的，美国并不是一个已经完美的联邦，也就是说我们可以做得更好。我们承认自己并不完美，我们也曾经犯过错误，而且呢也有往倒退的时候。但是纵观美国的历史，我们都是以公开的、开放的、透明的方式来处理这些问题，我们并不回避，我们也没有这个假装它不存在，或者呢把它扫在一个角落里头不去处理。在这个过程当中呢是非常痛苦的，而且呢也是非常艰难的。但是每一次在我们克服了这些困难之后，美国作为一个国家显得更加强大，人民更加团结，国家更加美好。那么我记得在这个金融危机的时候呢，拜登总统当时也访问了中国，与当时的副主席习近平先生有过很多的这个接触和对话。其中他非常这个严肃地说过一句话，打赌美国不行，一定是输的。
Just briefly, to add to what Secretary Blinken has said, because I was actually going to make the same point without us even consulting. A confident country is able to look hard at its own shortcomings and constantly seek to improve. And that is the secret sauce of America. The other secret sauce of America is that our people are a problem-solving people, and we believe that we solve problems best when we work together with allies and partners around the world. Just a couple of weeks ago, the United States landed another rover on Mars. And it wasn't just an American project. It had technology from multiple countries, from Europe and other parts of the world. And it is also going to leave behind a collection of material from Mars that the United States and Europe will build a device that can fly there to pick it up and bring it back. That is what can be accomplished by a country that is constantly reinventing itself, working closely with others, and seeking constantly to produce the kind of progress that benefits all, that is rooted in a concept of human dignity and human rights that is truly universal, that every man, woman, and child in this world aspires to. So we look forward to the conversation today, but I do hope this conversation will be one carried out with confidence on both sides. So it's not lectures or long, winding statements. It's the opportunity for us to explain where we're coming from, to hear where you are coming from, and to indicate at bottom what our principles, our priorities, and our long-term strategies are. That's what we hope for in the dialogue that lies ahead. That is the spirit with which we approach this, and we look forward to continuing the discussion today. Thank you, everybody.
这样我呢也想接着讲几句话。其实我要讲的话呢，国务卿刚才呢几乎都这个讲过了。但是呢，我要说明的是，其实